What is up, my fellow Mandalorians? Welcome to my what I think we're going to see from the Mandalorian Season 3, along with some predictions, addressing some of the issues fans have had coming out of the finale, and just how I think some things could possibly go next season. And some of what I'm about to say I actually found really interesting in terms of some theories and stuff, so I would love to hear your reaction and input on what I had to say down in the comments, because honestly there's a lot of possibilities for where things can go next season. So I think some of you have already guessed it. The first thing we have to talk about is Grogu. I think this is definitely not the last we'll see of him, that's for sure. I think all of you believe that as well, because he's such a huge, popular and successful character for the show. He's not just going to disappear and we're never ever going to see him again. However, I don't think that we will see him necessarily in the way that some fans may think. I know Din did promise that they would see each other again, but I don't think that means it will happen immediately. But going back to what I meant with what some fans are speculating about, is that they think that we could see Grogu next season, and that's training with Luke Skywalker. Now personally, I don't know about you, but this is just me. I don't really see us getting scenes of Luke Skywalker with that grade of deepfake that we saw in the finale of Mando Season 2. Now this isn't me completely ridiculing that or anything. I was a huge fan of the way things went down in the latter of that episode, but also it wasn't the most perfect looking thing either. And I mean, in one world I could see it, but realistically speaking, my intuition is just telling me no. I can't really imagine scenes scattered few and far between the season of Grogu training with Luke there, unless it was portrayed in the way Luke was shown before he took his hood off. I mean, they could get away with that, but all in all, I'm just going to say that I can't imagine we're going to get separated scenes of the usual Mando plot next season, and then every now and again getting scenes of Grogu learning the ways of the Force and completing his training. Let me know if you think I'm wrong there. I'll completely hold my hands up if that's the case, and one of you guys may have a really good way of approaching Luke Skywalker and Baby Grogu scenes next season, and I'm not completely discounting that we might see one or two, in terms of maybe one scene in episode 2 and then the next scene right in the finale, and maybe it's something as simple as what I said with just Luke in a hood and Baby Grogu doing something, but nothing in terms of a deep dive where we get casual conversations with a deep faked Luke Skywalker. I just really realistically don't think that's gonna happen. But then of course we have to talk about the whole Din Djarin effectively now being the leader of Mandalore. I mean, technically he is Mandalore himself, which happened through disarming Moff Gideon of the Darksaber. And what happens if you rightfully win against somebody wielding the Darksaber? Well, then you have the right to be the ruler of the Mandalorian people. Now, this next bit I'm about to say is staying in line with the video of what I think could happen, but also I want to dive into this one just a bit deeper, because there's still a couple of issues that surround it, and I offer a solution, but even then it feels almost contrived to a degree just for the sake of the plot. So I would love your thoughts on how you think that this following theory and plot could go down next season. Just let me know in the comments. So first of all, we know that Din doesn't want anything to do with being the leader of Mandalore. I mean, this couldn't have been made any more clear through him repeatedly trying to offer the Darksaber to Bo Katan. Now, the only thing I find puzzling is the way they presented the resolution for this for Din, and how this will be resolved in Season 3 moving forward, which I'll get into in just a moment, but he obviously doesn't want to be the leader, and actually couldn't really care less about Mandalore, let alone being the leader. And this should be fairly easily resolved in theory, since the initial outcry from the finale where fans, including myself, were questioning the Bo Katan refusing the Darksaber ordeal, which seemingly went against Rebels canon. However, many people have given some headcanon responses to that, which I'm actually okay with. So very quickly, for example, the first time Bo Katan was offered the Darksaber, Maul had actually left the Darksaber behind and Sabine took it, and by that point, all the clans of Mandalorians were unanimously in agreement to have Bo Katan as their leader, which I think is a unique enough and fair enough circumstance for Bo Katan in the past in Rebels there. However, skip forward to the timeline of The Mandalorian, to just take it once again, especially after losing the Darksaber she was given in agreement by all the Mandalorians, that just wouldn't be right, which is why she does refuse it. I mean, think about it. You could argue that she lost the trust of quite a few Mandalorians after not only losing the planet Mandalore, but also having the Darksaber taken from her. Despite the forces of the Empire, that's still quite a bit of a defeat, and nevertheless, as the leader of Mandalore, she well and truly lost quite hard. So this time round, effectively when she didn't win it, when there was an opportunity to do so, to take it this time when Din was just offering it to her like it was a piece of candy, would just be way too much of an easy thing to do, and that is quite different from the Rebel situation, as I explained, and especially after what you could call the shame of losing as the leader of Mandalore in the past. This time, someone did have it, Moff Gideon, and it would only be right to win it in combat now. But that opportunity was taken from her, which leads to what I wanted to address anyway. So I can get past Bo Katan refusing the lightsaber out of tradition and honor, because in Rebels it was staged a bit differently, as we just kind of went over, but this time, why can't Bo Katan and Din just duel for it? Why did Moff Gideon present this issue as though she has to kill Din Djarin, with his very words to her saying you may as well just kill him now and take it? Why though, Moff Gideon? Why say that? What I'm trying to get at here is that Din Djarin dueled Moff Gideon and disarmed the Darksaber and spared his life. Why would the rules be any different for Bo Katan versus Din Djarin? So what I'm trying to say is that it really should be as easy as Bo Katan and Mando literally having a duel, and to note, not a duel to the death. In this duel, they both would give their most sincere efforts to beat one another, since Din won't be allowed to just take it easy on Bo Katan, otherwise that really does completely defeat the point. And if Bo Katan is successful, she would disarm the Darksaber in the exact same fashion that Din Djarin did with Moff Gideon in the finale, and she would effectively be the new leader of Mandalore without having to kill Din Djarin. Except the thing I'm a bit iffy on with all of this is that the episode tried to make it out as if she does have to kill him, with Moff Gideon saying what he did, when that would kind of contradict how Din Djarin spared Moff Gideon's life, but for all we know, that's just Moff Gideon trying to stir the pot, so to speak. Now, one way I can think of addressing this is to make things a bit more complicated. But at the same time, it is kind of straightforward, but I don't think my solution will necessarily be the actual resolution, and here's why. So hear me out, that is to hold the official duel, giving respect to the tradition that demands an actual battle between both Din Djarin and Bo Katan that shouldn't result in death, but just a clear defeat. However, let's just say Din wins, because in this case, Bo Katan just can't beat him. Let's say because, well, come on, if she did win, then this whole plot is redundant, the whole tension between them is redundant, and yeah, it was just that easy, which we all know won't be that straightforward, but back on topic. So this is where things could get very interesting, because this means that Din just simply can't not be the leader, because he beats Bo Katan in theory in any challenge that they have, which could make Bo Katan's jealousy reach a point of wanting to kill him. Now personally, that does technically speaking work. If they hold a duel, she tries to disarm him, and because they're both compelled to try their best to defeat one another, Din wins every time, much to his displeasure, and it would fix the issue of how it's actually not that easy to make Bo Katan the leader, since Din wins each duel, so she's faced with only one option if she wants to become the leader, and that is to kill him. But the thing is, wouldn't this be fairly uncharacteristic of her, for her obsession to be the leader to drive her to the point of murdering a fellow Mandalorian? It just does seem a bit of a stretch. But while I mention it, one final way that this could happen, which would be total cowardice of Bo Katan, and would really paint an even worse, or should I say arguably worse and shocking picture than, let's say, murdering Din Djarin, is if, let's say, when both characters are retaking Mandalore, which will be my next point of discussion after this, because I think it's fairly obvious that we will see Mandalore in live action in the Mandalorian show, but anyway, maybe Din Djarin could be left for dead by Bo Katan in a situation that unfolds on screen where maybe there's a battle, he's wounded, and it's just both of them left in this certain situation. He's asking for help, and in this moment, she just takes the Darksaber and walks away. Reports back to, let's just say, another character, or just rendezvous with Cara Dune, and says something to the others like, Mando didn't make it out, Din Djarin is dead. But then, the following episode, in a very dramatic, kind of soap opera kind of way, Din comes back, and he wasn't actually dead. Oh man, that would be quite the awkward situation. Once again, though, I do want to say I am really not saying that is how it's going to happen, but, you know, if you think about it, like, how are they going to do this? Because let's just face the facts. They don't have to kill each other, because Mando didn't do that to Moff Gideon. So let's just assume that Mando wins, because otherwise, as I said, this whole plot would be redundant if they did just simply duel and Bo Katan won. Then it's just, oh, story over. Okay, so that's not going to happen. So the only route I can see it going is somewhere among the veins of what I explored in these theories. So do you think that Din Djarin will be the reluctant hero and leader of the Mandalorians in retaking Mandalore next season possibly, with maybe Bo Katan perhaps being involved as a guide and a mentor to leadership, while not taking that throne for herself, and along the way perhaps Din might take to being the leader of Mandalore? Or do you think that Bo Katan's compulsion to bring back Mandalore, which is a mission she's committed to for a long time now to be fair, and nobody else seems to be doing anything about, and to take it back as leader, only to have her true heritage ripped away from her unknowingly by Din Djarin? This could lead her to a more sinister and darker route to rip it from Din Djarin's corpse, if necessary. Will her pride be too much to just give up what she envisioned this whole time to some complete randomer Mandalorian? Either way, Bo Katan has been portrayed, I would say, more heroic as of late, but she has definitely had some shade in her past, so I would love to know if you think that this would be too uncharacteristic of Bo Katan to have this tension between her and Din Djarin to maybe lead to the point of murder, or kind of like leaving him out to die or something like that. But this leads me to my next one, and it's quite an obvious one: seeing Mandalore in live action. So despite how things resolve between Bo Katan and Din Djarin, which while I mention it, I do want to acknowledge how this could actually be something that's scattered throughout season 3. So let's say retaking Mandalore from more or less the beginning of the season, but the conclusion of who is getting the Darksaber permanently is just touched upon every now and again, between the characters also needing to take care of important business of the whole logistics of retaking Mandalore, which could come in many different forms, like spending many episodes trying to find other Mandalorians, recruit them, amass an army. And also this show is, you know, called The Mandalorian, and I can easily imagine, just like I'm sure many of you can, that this is all amounting to getting more Mandalorians out from their little hidey hole coverts and seeing way more awesome action scenes of tens and tens of jetpacked badasses flying around taking out Imperials. Think episode 3 of season 1 at the end, but like times 10. And I know that Din Djarin doesn't so much care about retaking Mandalore, but I do believe that this will still fall in line with his character's journey. I mean, after all, we've had him realize himself that there are literally, so to speak, other ways out there, when he thought that there was only one way. His way. This is the way, so to speak, but that's just not true anymore. He's realized, at least from the perspectives of other Mandalorians, that his Mandalorian tribe and creed is a religious extremist version, and even though I think he's in a bit of denial about that, he's slowly edging himself out of it like a shy animal coming out of the bushes, but he hasn't quite dipped his feet in the water yet because it's all he's known. I mean, for crying out loud, he was in a cult, but along the course of the season, I think he will adopt that new way. You could also say that now Grogu is gone, why would he still care? Especially as he didn't care for Mandalore, or what he refers to as a cursed planet. He could say, well, if you're not taking it, I'm gonna drop this hilt on the floor, and if anyone wants it, they can have it. If not, let's just let it gather dust, right? Because, I'm not gonna lie, he could just say that. However, Mando has gone through enough character development in the past 2 seasons to where I think he will start to care about taking back the Mandalorian home world, even if these other Mandalorians don't bend to the same creed that he's been a part of most of his life. Mando, before he found the child, was more or less a self-serving bounty hunter. I mean, of course, he helped serve his, own tribe, but we've had references in the Prison Break episode from his old crew and how they actually teased how he was a lot less humane by the sounds of things, with things that he even did back in those old days being referred to as just target practice and other things. But now, he's different. Grogu has helped him care about more than just himself, and I don't think it's a far stretch from the imagination to say that since he doesn't have Grogu anymore for the time being, he may as well kind of help Bo Katan and his fellow Mandalorian people retake Mandalore. But at the same time, I do not want to get ahead of myself. I do want to note that all of that main recapturing of Mandalore might not even take place next season, or the beginning of a siege could, take place towards the finale to continue in the 4th season. This season might honestly be all about prepping Mandalorians, gathering them, figuring out his own crisis of creed, and just all kinds of similar things like that. But what about Moff Gideon? I mean, Moff Gideon is now captured. Does he have a future in the show? I mean, I believe so. Giancarlo Esposito is too much of an important thing, I think, for Favreau and Filoni. Everyone loves him. The fans love him. And importantly, he isn't dead. He's captured. At the same time, I don't think he's going to be involved in the same capacity, fairly obviously. I think since we're getting Rangers of the New Republic in the future, his information that could be used could tie more into that kind of area, and perhaps within the Mandalorian, maybe details that would be useful to know about defenses on Mandalore. I mean, there's a lot he could still offer there, but it's not like he's going to get out of his cuffs and just run away. I mean, that would be kind of stupid. So I can't imagine he's just going to be as present as he was in the past 2 seasons. Not that he was actually that present, but he could also be used to introduce the new overarching threat. Sure, retaking Mandalore is a threat enough, but as I always say, and as Qui-Gon said, there will still kind of be a bigger fish, and hopefully that is indeed Grand Admiral Thrawn, of which fans are kind of referring to perhaps as the Thanos of this timeline where we're at in Star Wars after Return of the Jedi, connecting these multiple shows like The Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic, and Ahsoka's series together. Like all the MCU films, you had Thanos still like at the focal point of being the enemy, so think of a similar vein to that. And also, his base of operations, being Grand Admiral Thrawn, is most likely on Mandalore, at least in my opinion, and that would be fantastic. But anyway, I've been speaking for long enough now about these different angles the Mandalorian could go down in Season 3, so you guys know what I want to hear from you. What is your response to what I had to say with the different speculations I offered and different avenues it could go down, whether that's the Darksaber, how will Bo Katan approach this moving forward? Will we be seeing Mando and Bo Katan recapture Mandalore next season, or would it be more about kind of the tension between them, as well as the efforts that go into preparing the siege for Mandalore for perhaps the whole duration of next season? I mean, there's a lot of different ways that can go, but either way, like this video if you did enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe if you're enjoying the Mandalorian videos and you've been watching the channel. I do cover lots of other shows as well, so make sure you check those things out. As always, links to everything like my social media, Twitter, Patreon, Discord server are in the top pinned comment down below. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and may the Force be with you always.